All right, everybody. Special episode today, season 10, episode 15 from a shitty hotel in Biloxi, Mississippi. Um, Limited on the schedule and timing and everything, and that thankfully I have two of you, so it's even more difficult. So glad we were able to make this work on a lovely drill weekend. So Daniel and Jared here with me today. We're going to be talking about their experience, motivational speaking, um, and then the film Beautifully Broken. We'll get into all of that. First, really quick, mention Brain Performance Technologies is our sponsor, the Overwatch Collective podcast. Mental health clinic that treats patients with transcranial magnetic stimulation. It helps with TBI, PTSD, anxiety, ADHD. It's drug free, non invasive, accepts TRICARE for our military community, and then most recently Blue Shield. You can listen to season 9, episode 20, season 10, episode 11 podcast, or go to 1bbt.com for further information. That's it. That's all that I got for the quick little intro. One of you guys take it away. Please give us a quick introduction of yourselves, and then we'll go from there.
You start, Jared.
So Jared Buchanan, Marine vet, got out in 2014. I was 0311, stationed at both Marine Barracks, Washington, D.C., and then with 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines out of Camp Pendleton. Deployed on the 31st MEU back in 2013. And during my time, when I was in 2013, a little bit earlier that year, I lost my father to suicide. So that's kind of where the journey of healing, the journey of post-traumatic growth, the journey of finding meaning from the suffering. That's where like everything kind of came to play. So happy to say that his death has been able to inspire, positively uplift, and just do anything we can in our power now to help others in similar situations. So met Daniel when I was working for a company for like a few months, and Daniel can kind of touch base on that, but very, it's almost like too, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You got to look kind of behind, and then the dots somehow do connect.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Yeah, so I'm Daniel Herzog. I directed the film Beautifully Broken. I've been making films since I was a kid with our home video camera. Went to school for that. Was a commercial director for a long time, and then I was a creative director for about 5 years. That's where I met Jared. One of the things that we did at the marketing agency was we had a lot of different types of clients, but we also did a lot of outreach and promotion of first responders, veterans, things like that. And we were working on a project, and we would always try to bring in, veterans, first responders into these projects just to, raise awareness. One day we're working on a project. Jared was there was a bunch of Marine veterans there. Jared was one of them. I knew the other guys, but I didn't know Jared. Introduced myself. We hit it off right away. And that's when I first learned about what ultra marathons were, which I knew what marathons were, but I think ultra marathons now has probably become a little bit more mainstream. And over the years, Jared and I, we became friends, and he would always hound me to make a documentary about him, which finally in 2022, we began that journey.
Sweet. I love that. So number one, Jared, I'm a fellow 0311 dude. I wasn't active. I was reserved at a 6x2 contract, and didn't get to do anything cool. Went to Japan and ate all the sushi, drank all the sake and all that stuff. Didn't get to go on a MEU or anything cool, but appreciate you, man. And I'm sorry to hear about your father, unfortunately taking his own life. But I mean, one of the ways that I kind of see suicide now, and after losing a few buddies to suicide, is that we can remember them, and then all the work that we do for them and the lives that we touch, it's like in their honor. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Most
Absolutely.
recently lost one of our buddies, Shane Hart. He worked at the police department I worked at in California. He was a 0311 turned scout sniper dude. Afghan combat vet, saw crazy stuff. Unfortunately died by suicide January of this year. And like he knew everything about the nonprofit, the podcast, everything that we do, and still unfortunately died by suicide. And I had so many people say like, hey, just keep doing what you're doing in memory of Shane. So I applaud
Yeah.
you and respect you for that, man.
It's a tough it's such a tough topic, but like it's a very rewarding topic and what we're doing now. Spreading the advocacy, awareness, and doing our best to save lives.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, Daniel, that's where you come into play with the film and having Jared on and kind of share a story and obviously raise awareness for mental health and reducing the suicides, the stigma of mental health. It's still we're still seeing that across all branches of the U.S. military, I think, and the first responder community. Um, so sweet. Let's dive into it. So the film, I know Daniel, you mentioned a little bit about the film, but share a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
What it's kind of like, and then I want to get into where our listeners and our audience can go watch it and listen.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, like I said, it was around 2022. I was working on a documentary project, and I was using a lot of people that I already knew in my life as subject matter experts. And Jared was somebody that I hadn't seen in a while, and he was actually one of the people at the top of my list. I always found Jared has a lot of energy. I always kind of gravitated towards Jared. I always felt uplifted after hanging out with him, and went over his house. We chatted for a bit. We recorded this interview, and that was the first time that I really understood that Jared, he didn't just run ultra marathons to run ultra marathons. He ran it, began, or maybe it still exists, to deal with the trauma of losing his father, and then taking it a step further. Every race that he does, he has a picture of his dad tacked to his shirt, which made me think, oh, okay, so he's raising awareness and running and kind of combining the two things. And then just the more we started to talk about it, and Jared is a huge proponent about doing hard work and difficult things in terms to grow as an individual. And again, he'd been hounding me for years to make a documentary. I didn't know if I had kind of something to say about the topic. So my father was also a police officer, much different experience than Jared's dad. My dad retired. He did about 30 years and then retired. And this is something I've talked to my dad a lot, and especially when I first met Jared, and then just the whole awareness of police suicide and first responder suicide started to come about. And I would ask my dad, and his experience was he was really able to kind of turn it off, but not everybody was able to turn it off when they came home. So Jared and I had this, we met up that day, and I went home and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I had no interest in making a film at the time. I had just finished another film, and visually I just things started to kind of come to mind. And he had told me in that conversation that he was about to start training for at the time, the hardest race that he was ever going to do, which was the Cocodona 250, which at the time they were changing the routing. There was like 10,000 feet of elevation gain when you began. It starts in the desert of Arizona and you end up in the mountains of Flagstaff. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, oh, this could be visually very interesting. And I wrote up a treatment that night and I said, what do you think about this? And Jared was on board. I think that was July or August of 22, and it was probably September, October when we actually started to just do test filming. I had to figure out how am I going to film all this running. There's a lot of running in the documentary, and we just kind of we went through from there, and then we just kind of documented all the way up to leading to the race. And one of the crazy things about the documentary is that as much as I thought that I had an idea of what it was going to be, or as much as I wanted to plan it out, things kept popping up. And one of the things that popped up was Jared's father passed away in March of 2013, and the race was May 1st of 23. So it was the 10-year anniversary. So that was like a huge sign. And then just over the course of as we're filming this project, I had a close relationship with Jared's mom, Trish, and she would always be sending me, photos and this and that. And there was always new things that she was sending, whether it was a letter that, Jared's father wrote to him in 1991 when Jared was 1 year old, and his brother Benj, which you guys are about a year apart, right, Jared? Writing that in anticipation of Jared becoming a brother. So it was all these things. And just as the project progressed, things kept lining up more and more. So I knew that we were onto something really special.
Yeah, very cool. And I kind of want to circle back for a second. And I've experienced this with suicide quite a bit and losing people. And one of the things, Jared, I kind of have a question for you is kind of tell us something a little bit about your dad. Um, like one of the things that you really miss, or something that you learned from
Hmm.
him, or some piece of advice that you got from him, or this experience that you can kind of give to the audience. I think that's also a great kind of way to remember people.
Yeah. I mean, I just miss just his presence in general, just the simplicity of just watching a movie together and talking about it after. Him on, I ran the Marine Corps Marathon when I was 21, and he actually, I'm so grateful he came down for that when I was in DC. And like, it's kind of sad at times because yes, I'm honoring his memory, and yes, just because he's gone physically, spiritually, he's with me forever. But sometimes you kind of miss that. You see other people's parents like right there when you're running everything, so you miss stuff like that. In terms of value and some things that I remember him teaching me, what's funny? The first thing that comes to mind is he always said never take no shit from nobody. That was one of the first things that comes to mind. Um, just an exuberant man of integrity who just really cared. His family was everything. He wanted to go to work, pay the bills, provide for his family, and go to both me and my brother's events. Support my mother Trish, his wife, and family was his life. Man, that was his backbone.
Very cool. Yeah, I appreciate you giving a little insight on him. I should have asked about that earlier before kind of getting to the
It's
film,
all
and I
good.
apologize that. But I felt like it was important to kind of go back to learn a little bit about your dad, and I think that's definitely a big part of who you are today. Obviously, right, and like joining the Marine Corps and all of that. So I appreciate you sharing that, man. And Jared, so from your point of view, right, you were working with Daniel about. Uh, Doing, obviously, running probably nonstop and filming all this. So how was this experience for you, and what did you take away from it?
So the experience was a lot. It was a nonstop grind at the time, but what was cool was, we went out with four of us. Myself, Daniel, his brother Matt, and then Matt Fryman, who kind of helps coach and crew for me. And it was like a fire team of four, but everybody had a job to perform. And to be honest, I kind of felt like mine was the easiest. All I had to focus on was just running to the next station.
Yeah,
They had only one chance, one shot to get the cinematic scenes and views. I wasn't going to run back for them to redo it. So they only had one chance to get these right. So man, we would get to a station. I would be seeing him and his brother set up real quick, line up the shot, and then we just kind of went through it. My buddy Matt Fryman, who is a 11 Bravo, he was in the Army, multiple combat deployments on both. What was it on? You ever see that documentary Restrepo?
yeah,
On
yeah.
So he was right when he was over with the guard. That was kind of the area of Afghanistan where he was. So a lot of exposure there. But anyways, he freaking he cares so much about the crewing aspect. Like he doesn't sleep that much at all. I probably got more sleep than him during this race and event. So anyways, it was a fire team. We all had a job to perform. So everybody covered their ground, And I guess what I gained from it, one, another additional aspect of letting go and healing, and two, how I never thought how many lives it would impact. Something like this. We just did a screening again at Middlesex College last Friday, and just I'm still getting DMs today about it. And one of the coolest things about that was earlier this week, there was this woman who wanted to start her weight loss journey, and she tagged me in an Instagram story, and she's like, "Jared made me do it and everything." So like just seeing the positive effects going, that's what this is all about. What we can do for other people.
Very cool. Very cool. And then, so Daniel, going back to you, kind of flip-flopping here a little bit. So how long was this production? How long did it take from start to finish? And I'm sure, like, I mean, Jared had the easy part of just playing Forrest Gump and running nonstop. Uh, but you had it a little bit harder. So, like, start to finish, how long did it take? And then, obviously, I mean, it seems like it's worth it, right?
Yeah, so like I said, it was like the end of July of 22. We had the conversation, and then I had to figure out how I was going to film it and all of that. And then I think it was I feel like it was like a couple months later, we just started to do a lot of test shots because I had to figure out how to film running. And I
Mhm.
mean, I can run for a certain period of time, but holding gear, it gets heavy after a while. And then
Uh,
I think our first shooting date was probably, it was somewhere in November. So I would kind of have, Jared would let me know what his training regimen would be. I would figure out, this will be good to film, this will be good. Um, and just kind of schedule it that way. I would send Jared emails like once a week, give him homework assignments because I wasn't always able to be with him. So it was things like, Jared, I need to track your diet. And when you go to the grocery store, film and photograph what you're eating and all of that. We might be able to use that later. Um, there's a scene in the doc where he's a crazy person. So he does 7 days of marathons about 30 days out from doing an actual ultra to really kind of break his body and get used to heavy legs or weak or tired legs.
Running,
And
yeah.
so I had him, I was like, I need you to make like a video diary of that. So it's like day one and he's getting up and it's March and it is cold in Connecticut. He's got to go to work after, I got to go to work. So I filmed with him one morning, and then, yeah, everything led up pretty much to, Cocodona. We got to Arizona. I think it was the 28th or the 29th of April. Filmed. I was able to scout the beginning of the location because one of the challenges for this doc was, when I do a commercial or something, I usually know I'm able to kind of go check out the location or I already know the location. But with this, I'm reliant on a GPS where I'm following Jared, and we had to stay ahead of him, and we're in like really remote spots. So there's crew stations that are way off track, but we had these sort of like like a press pass where they gave us access. So we were able to kind of go wherever we wanted where other people couldn't, which was really beneficial. But I'm looking at a GPS as we're trying to get to the next location, figuring out, is this a good spot to get off, go out into the desert or into the bush and figure out where Jared is to get some shots. So that's kind of how it was. So my brother and I, we would film. Jared would be off. We'd get to the next location, scout the location, build the shot list, and then usually just wait around for a couple hours and then have that one opportunity for Jared
yeah.
comes through. Maybe he was going to just have some water really quick and maybe a snack and then move on. And that's how it was all the way until the very end. And then we wrapped, I think it was like May 6th, it was a 6th because it was the day after your mom's birthday. And then we filmed a couple kind of more planned cinematic shots over that summer. And then so that was 23. And then I edited every day until June 30th of last year, which was the
That's
premiere date of the film. I was editing the morning of the premiere. So
oh,
about
no.
about about 3 years since we had the conversation. And I figured it was going to take about 3 years to do the project just based on the complexity and the timing of everything. So
Wow.
yeah.
That deserves a round of applause. Wow. I thought editing like a 45-minute episode on the podcast was a lot of work until just now. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
He
no, it
pretty
was
much he pretty much did it minus what the a little help with sound. I mean, you were pretty
yeah,
much by
I had
yourself.
a sound, yeah, I had a my buddy Bob Pepic, Melancholy Sound, did an amazing job with the sound design. But yeah, otherwise it was me editing, and his mom and him and his brother gave me an insane amount of family photo, just everything that I could possibly want. So going through all of that, and then Jared's homework assignments I'm giving him, and then figuring out because I look at it, it's kind of like two documentaries blended in together. It's Jared training for this insane race, but then also the story of Jared in the military losing his father, and then kind of this arc of what he dealt with to kind of get to where he is today. And then I really kind of cut two documentaries, and then I figured out how can I merge them together, and that's really what it is.
Gotcha. Okay, and that leads into one of my next questions is the mission of the documentary. What's the point of getting out there to the community? I think you kind of just answered it, but Jared, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, save lives. Save lives. Going back to my dad's note, to make his death an issue and help other people like him. That's why we did this, and we're already seeing the impact. So
Mhm.
just trying to do the best we can to get more awareness, more exposure, more networking. Just did another podcast earlier today, actually at one. Did one last week, so I'm trying. If you have any recommendations too for other ones, we're trying to do like one a week now. So we're just trying to get it out there. So and yeah, man, just the hope is if somebody like my father is able to watch this and kind of put themselves in his perspective and see the parallels and maybe do something different, and find a level of healing. Find I talk about this a lot too. Find a way to put your pain into something productive, instead of numbing it with substance. If you can find a way to promote that and put that into something, like it doesn't have to be running, whether it's fishing, hiking, baking, cutting grass, sewing. A friend
Yeah.
who just started her own sewing company, like put all that pain into that. That'll take you to the next level. It is such a power source.
Yeah, and your dad was a police officer, is that correct? Or did I hear that
Yup.
wrong?
Yup. Police officer for 24 years.
Got it. Okay, yeah. And so I'm fourth generation law enforcement and third generation military. My brother was a smart one and became a firefighter, so he gets to wash his truck and work out and sit in those comfy recliners pretty much every day. So definitely picked the wrong career field there. But yeah, like the substance misuse, the divorce rate, the infidelity, the suicide rate, the trauma exposure to I'd say not only our police officers, but the firefighters as well. As much as I joke and kid around
Absolutely.
firefighters, but like the first responder community, in addition to our military community, like you mentioned, your 11 Bravo buddy, multiple combat deployments. Like, there's no way you can transition back to civilian life and be just like how you were before you came in, right? So, um, that's all.
Corrections. Corrections too. Those guys are struggling. I work with a,
Yeah,
work with a lot of COs for clients. That is a tough job. Almost very thankless. At least when working with the community with law enforcement, as you know, at least here and now there's some good stories, but
yeah.
that is a tough behind the wall. That is a tough profession.
Mhm.
Very much struggling.
Yeah, them like deputy coroners, where their entire job is just to come pick up deceased bodies and see terrible crime scenes, and then obviously like the dispatchers as well and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean that's our mission at the Overwatch Collective, right? Is our nonprofit is to have 3 to 5 contracted therapists that we personally vet to work with our military and first responder
Nice.
community in every single state. And then with our experience, my buddy and I, who started this in 2021, is of having the first responder and military experience of working with the VA and peer support teams and employment assistance program and dealing with the mess of insurance. We're like, hey, if we can create a smooth and confidential process for our community to get in touch with our therapists and then streamline that process, maintain confidentiality, and then we help fund the therapy, then maybe we could save a life. Jared, same kind of thing as you. It's if we could save a life, then mission's complete for us. So,
Hmm.
um, I mean, as of now, we're at like 305 people that have gone through us, over 335
Outstanding.
spent there.
Outstanding.
So, um, so super cool. And I mean, same kind of thing. It comes from unfortunately losing friends to suicide. Um, and that's where a lot of these organizations come from, I feel like, where it's unfortunate, tragic loss, but then something good comes from that. So,
Yup.
um, it's nice to hear that and that mission. And so talk to me a little bit about the impact, some of the messages that you've received, the social media messages like you kind of mentioned.
Yeah, man, it's powerful. It is such a gift to know that even if it's just one person, it is such a gift. I treasure it, take it very seriously at all the messages we get, and just trying to spread the love and awareness some more. So very, very powerful. Um, Goes back to almost kind of like back to the Marine Corps mission and everything. That power of peer support. Strength of the pack is the wolf. Strength of the wolf is the pack. We heal with connection. I talk about that a lot during my talks. Connection heals.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Daniel, anything to add?
I think Jared's being a little modest because while we were working on the doc and even now, the amount of text messages that he gets from strangers, whether they've been referred by somebody else or I know Instagram, there's a scene that I put at the end of the documentary as he's summited this mountain and starts going down, and it was one of his homework assignments was I want to see what are people saying to you when they reach out to you. And he sent me hundreds of text messages, and I just kind of went through them and kind of it's like this really cool collage, but it's really like he was saying, it's been amazing to do. That's why we love these in-person screenings. Is
Hmm.
we get the feedback right there,
Yeah.
and what when you hear what people get out of it, or if they have been affected by suicide or just been depressed. A lot of we hear people like at the colleges, their parents they lost parents to drug addiction. There's no drug addiction in this documentary, but how this has inspired them. So that's been such a joy, I think, for both of us, is just seeing inspiring people. And that was, I know Jared has said many times, to change someone, one person's life, and I that's a huge goal of ours. But I wanted to just inspire people, like that's why I feel like filmmaking is such a powerful medium because it can amp you up. It's a roller coaster of emotions, and that's what we wanted, was to really take people through this journey and make them feel really good, even though it's built on this tragic situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so cool to hear both of you talk about that, like the positive feedback and how it just gives you like such a warm, like fuzzy feeling. And it kind of gave me like the goosebumps and the chills a little bit while hearing that, because I can relate that same thing to our nonprofit and podcasts. I know, like, I trust me, I don't do much editing, nothing like 3 years like you, Daniel. Like I'll spend a little bit of time, but all this nonprofit and all the admin kind of bullshit that nobody
Yup.
really wants to deal with, and all the behind the scenes stuff that a lot of people don't see because our entire board of directors all has full-time jobs and everything, and this is kind of like a passion and voluntary status.
Mhm.
um, but when people reach out for therapy and we're able to connect them quickly and it's a smooth process and we get to pay for them to go to therapy, and we send people to retreats sometimes where we pay 50% of the cost. And when we
Nice.
get a message back and it's like, hey, like, you saved my life, like if it wasn't for this organization, I don't know where I'd be right now. And we've had probably about 9 or 10 of those. That makes it all worth it, and that's where it's like it lights a fire under my ass and gives me the passion to continue to do all that. um, and I'm sure it's the same way, like, right, where it's like all this work, everything behind the scenes that a lot of people don't really get to see. Like, I know, Jared, you just got to run like Forrest Gump we talked about, but Daniel, like, doing all the editing and all the GPS tracking and getting all that work for one shot, like, to see some of these messages in here and like, hey, you saved my life, or hey, you changed my life, altered my life in this way, has to feel good, right?
Absolutely.
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 Yeah. Yeah. Just the fact that that I finished this is a miracle, because the longest project I'd ever done at that point was a 40-minute documentary. Then all my other experience was commercials and like 5-minute lifestyle docs. So it was really, I guess I did this in a kind of a selfish way. I was like, oh well, Jared's interesting. Can I make a 90-minute film that people are going to be interested in, that's going to inspire people to do this? And it's been so worth it. It's been so worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love hearing that. So where, because I have yet to watch it. So
Okay.
where can we watch it? Where can people find it? Everything. I know I've been swamped. I need to watch it. I apologize.
All good.
But where can
All
people
good.
find it and talk a little bit about it?
Sure. So right now, exclusively what we're doing is if you go to our website, beautifullyBrokenDocumentary.com, there's a ton of call to actions on there for requesting a screening. So we have been doing that was the whole idea behind this. When I told Jared, we could easily throw it up on a streaming service, but we like to interact with the people and just love watching how people react. So we always sit in the back of the screening room and just kind of watch the people watch the film. And
Yeah.
so that's currently what we're doing. We have been since the film came out last summer, we have been doing screenings for colleges, which has really picked up. We're doing a lot of colleges now, different nonprofits, police unions, fire, different like fire departments and things like that. So if somebody wants to see it, reach out to us, because that's really what we want to do. We think that there's, Jared always says, people kind of finding your community, being together is really what helps people, and that's what we've really noticed about with all of these screenings is having that connection. People have kind of like a common interest or have a shared experience is what we've been finding as well. So we're doing screenings, and then at some point, probably later this year, it'll be available to stream. But yeah, for right now, just live screenings.
Cool. Yeah. And then, so what does that look like if somebody's listening to this and they're interested? Obviously, go to the website, request it. Like, do you have a long wait to come out? Do they have to find the venue? Do they have to pay for it? Kind of some of those admin things. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, so it's first thing is in terms of like scheduling, it's really what Jared and I's availability is. We both have full-time jobs as well. Jared is always traveling, doing more races. So that's one thing. If it's a local thing, we'll definitely support and try to find a venue. But the majority of the people that have been reaching out to us or we've been kind of cold emailing, they kind of put it all together, and then whether Jared and I are able to kind of either fly out or drive to where it is. One of the things that we've been doing has been amazing is, so I said Jared's a motivational speaker and he kind of gives a backstory about suicide awareness, and I'll let him talk more about that, but we've been kind of combining them together. So Jared does this amazing motivational speech. We'll do a little bit of a break and then we'll screen the film, and then we do this interactive Q&A.
Yeah, that's been hitting home
Yeah.
so far. So just did that last week. We did it the week before last week. I have another speech coming up this Thursday, not a screening though, but we actually just got hired for Arizona State. So we're going to be going out to Arizona State doing something very similar. So just, yeah, I think that just hits home the best.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's a perfect way of doing it, where it's like you motivational speaking, talk about it, play it, and then to sit in the back too and watch people's reactions. Like, I'm sure that's got to be cool because you get like such a raw and authentic reaction
Oh
from the
yeah. It's,
uh,
it's heavy. It gets heavy, but it's like,
yeah,
you gotta mix everything. You gotta mix of. There's some very dark moments. There's like you could categorize it almost like a horror. You got dramatic. You got humor. There's a lot of comedic scenes in it too. So I just think the way he was able to synchronize and mend it, like, because there's some tough scenes, but how he breaks it up, it was brilliant. I try to look at it from a neutral lens, like I'm not involved, and like kind of critique it there, but like I don't know how the hell he did it, because it's like he's telling three stories all in once: the story of my dad, the story of my journey of healing, and then the relationship repair of my brother and I. My brother and I, in there, it's tough at times, but we never always had a strong relationship like we do now. So that's a part of it. So I don't know how the hell he did it, but it was pretty cool to see. And I don't want to spoil the last scene.
yeah. Don't because I
Yeah.
haven't seen it yet, and obviously everybody listening to this and everything. Um, So sweet. I appreciate the both of you coming on. This is awesome. I feel like I can go on and on and on and talk to you guys forever about this. But I wanted to get like the pertinent info out there for the community so then they can go listen and request you, because we're fortunate enough to have listeners from all over the country and everything. So I hope that this brings, I mean, even if it's one person, right, and one view and all
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
And then, so it brings me to my last question for the both of you, where our motto is "One more is one less," comes from an Army 11 Bravo dude who lost more friends to suicide upon return stateside than actually overseas, in the shit. So then he was like, hey, if we can help one more person, that could be one less suicide funeral my buddies have to attend. And then that kind of stuck. So it's on the back of our t-shirts, sweatshirts, challenge coins, all that. So now what we do is we ask every guest at the end of the podcast what one more is one less means to them. So Jared, I kind of feel like I already know yours, so
Mhm.
I'm gonna have Daniel go first. So Daniel, what does one more is one less mean to you?
I don't even know how to answer that. Um,
I've got mine if you want to reflect.
Yeah, why don't you go first? Let me. This is a heavy question.
To me, it means you do what you can. Waking up, in your bed, that's a fucking win. Going outside for a walk. Say you lack the motivation that day to get exercise in, but just going out for maybe a 15-20 minute walk, that's a win. Going to a medical appointment or something. That's 3 wins right there. Keep stacking up those wins, and then before you know it, kind of that ferocious forward movement forward and that relentless mindset. The optimism will start kind of honing into your routine. So it kind of brings me back to your statement there of what it means. It goes back to that starfish story of you do what you can. Can we save everybody? Unfortunately, probably not, but you never know who you might touch, especially now listening. So do what you can.
Yeah. No, that to answer your question by kind of referring to something that I learned about the documentary was when Jared talks about running ultra marathons, people look at it as this insane feat. And it is an insane feat, right? To be able to do 100, 200, he even did a 300 one. And the one thing that Jared always says, and it really breaks down to kind of just like your life, is when you're looking at like, oh, I got to climb this mountain, it's like, just worry about climbing the first 1,000 feet, get to that point, and then a little bit more and a little bit more. And his kind of his motivational energy in the film and just spending all this time with him has really it's changed my outlook on a lot of things, especially when I think things are hard or I'm like, this is too big for me or whatever it is. It's like, no, just get from here to the door and then we're good. And then you have the next plan. And I don't know if that really answers your question, but it's something that, yeah, I think about just it's just one step at a time. And one step at a time really makes a difference because, like I said, never thought I'd be able to finish edit this documentary. The amount of footage that we shot was so insane. And I would always think of Jared, like, just do one scene at a time, do one thing at a time. And that's, I have these note cards all over my home office. And that's all I did was like, we're going to do this. We have 100 other ones we have to get through, but let's just start here. And and then eventually we got through it. So yeah, one step at a time.
It's great. Yeah, I like that. Both of you kind of talking about one small step, take even the small things as a win because I know I've seen it before, and obviously when people apply for financial assistance through us to go to our therapist, it's like they're in the deep end and they're going through a tough time. So even just like Jared, like you mentioned, going to a VA appointment, going to see a therapist, going to a therapy session, going for a walk, enjoying a meal with a friend that you haven't seen in a while, something like positive. And then those just compound and compound, and maybe that's the key to be able to conquering like the harder stuff too. So, no, I like it. You guys did perfect. It's cool because every time, everybody's meaning of what one more is one less means to them is always different. It's never the same. So, I think it's kind of always cool to ask people what it means. And sometimes, Daniel, it makes people really pause and think. Sometimes people have it right away, like Jared, and sometimes it catches people off guard and they start break down and they have to take a moment and collect themselves and get emotional and then get through it. But it means a lot to me. So I appreciate the both of you sharing. I appreciate the both of you doing all this work for the documentary. I'm sure it's saving a lot of lives and changing a lot of lives in the positive direction and going up the roller coaster instead of down because it's easier to go down the roller coaster.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I'm excited to get this episode out. It's literally going to be dropping at whenever this uploads. In 20 minutes, it'll be live. And then we'll get clips posted, all that. And then I need to get the link to your guys' website and the show notes, all that. And hopefully we can hit some people in our audience and get you out to them.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Greg.
Of course. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Anything else? Last minute things before we wrap this up?
Request a screening at beautifullyBrokenDocumentary.com.
Beautiful.
There you go. Beautiful. Sweet. Appreciate it. All right, everybody. Jared, Semper Fidelis, brother.
Semper Fi.
Everybody else, hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have any questions, obviously in the show notes will be their information to go to the website. And then if you cannot figure that out, hit me up, and then I will get you connected to either of them. But Gentlemen, thank you once again for your time, for what you're doing. And this wraps up the episode. Thank you, guys.
Cool.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Greg.
All right. Bye bye, everybody. Hope you enjoyed season 10, episode 15.
Cool.